Good morning, and thank you for joining us. I'm Spencer Tillis.
And I'm Trayvon Miles.
And this is the Delmarva Sports Insider. Coming up in just a little bit in this episode, Pocomoke was looking to take their bracket championship in the Governor's Challenge, but could they hold on to a lead late against Flowers?
Indian River also win the Governor's Challenge. Indians found themselves in the championship game of Bracket 2. We'll see if IR can get the job done against Benjamin Franklin.
And a little bit later, we'll be joined by the man behind the resurgence of the UMES men's basketball team. Coach Collins is in the house, everybody. But first today, we begin with what was one of the most exciting matchups in all of the Governor's Challenge. One of our very own teams, Bennett, was looking to win their championship when they kept their streak going, but they had to take on a very dangerous and very good Blake team to make that happen. Early on this one, it's Michael Jeans Charles. He finds Jordan Duffy and the senior showing off the range, knocking down the long ball right there. Let's just say this guy had a pretty big game in this one. Then a few possessions later, look at him getting to the rack, finishes with the left hand right there, plus the foul. He finished with 35 in this one, a tournament high. And then this guy can also pass the rock a little bit as well. Duffy with a gorgeous outlet to Barry Gaines, and he'll put that in plus the foul as well. Bennett would take a 2-point lead into the break, and it remained tight here in the second half. And then check this out. They connect on the down low bucket right there. It made it a 3-point game with just 5 seconds left. Bennett turned over the inbounds, and then it led to this, a potential game-tying three, but it is no good off front iron. Bennett somehow survives for a 75-72 win. And I'm telling you now, if you haven't heard yet, that kid Duffy, he ain't bad. He's doing pretty good. He's doing some things right now. I'll tell you what. I was down on a little bit on Bennett early on. I mean, they weren't really that impressive to start. They dropped a couple of their first few games, but they are really starting to quietly put together a couple nice stretch here, won a few games in a row, and at the end of the day, they have the best player in all of the Bayside. Jordan Duffy is hands down the most skilled, the most talented player, and when he gets going, that team is almost impossible to stop. It's interesting to see how far they go right now.
Exactly right. We were in the gym, and you saw the scoring prowess of Jordan Duffy in that game. Absolutely put the team on his back all night. For me, though, this next stretch of the season will be all about his supporting cast. I'm talking Gaines, I'm talking Gene Charles, Rizzo. We know what number 5 can do, but what about the others? What can they do is really what I'll be looking forward to.
Hey, some of those guys showed a few things. Michael Gene Charles, don't sleep on a couple of his role players. They're solid.
Well, the Washington Jags also looking to win their bracket in the challenge, taking on Bowie. First quarter, Jags doing what they do best, run the break. Shakur Cotman getting sick with it. The bank is open. Cotman gets the and one to go. Bowie showing they can run the break as well. 6'7", Anthony Barnes Jr. with the lefty lay-in. Bulldogs up 5 at the break. Later on, again, Cotman curling around, attacking the rim strong. Just stop it, Shakur. Shakur finished this game with 16 points and 11 rebounds. Jags still cutting into that lead. Jameer Jones out in the open court, shaking Bowie up a little bit. Watch this, Spencer, a little 1-2 step with a pretty finish. But in the fourth is where it kind of got away from Washington. Couple ejections, and Bulldogs guard Quentin Drayton with 2 here of his game high 21 will put the Jags away for good. Bowie wins it 70-59. Okay, so I'm not all too concerned with the loss. They played pretty good, but in my opinion, the main concern is the couple players that were ejected and may not be available for tomorrow's game against Wahai. Absolutely huge game. Obviously, it'll be an uphill climb if those guys are out.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, they lose Shakur Cotman out of that one. They also lose Parks. Those are 2 huge players towards what potentially could be one of the big matchups here. If they drop that game, they're going to fall 2 games behind both Waihi and Parkside, and they are really in the 8-ball moving forward trying to make a run at that conference championship. And they really just can't afford that to happen. I mean, those are 2 of their best players, 2 starters, and it's not exactly like they run that deep on that bench either. So that's going to be a tough game. They're going to have to find a way to make some plays down the stretch. Well, taking it to one of our Delaware schools, Sussex Tech was looking for a bounce-back win on Tuesday when they squared off against Randallstown. The Ravens looking good early on. Devin Abbott gets hard to the hoop right here. A little scoop off the glass, and the acrobatic finish is good for 2. And then back comes the Rands. It's Brandon Palmer. Can't quite get this runner to go, but Jamont Matthews is down there to clean that thing up, puts it up and in for 2. And still, Tech would have a double-digit lead early on, and then Shawan Sykes, this guy can score the bucket. The hoop plus the harm right there finishes for the and one. Randallstown tried to make a run at it in the second half here. Dwayne Banks makes a move down low and eventually would get that one to drop in, but ultimately the Ravens just too much in this one. Check out this pass here from Sykes. Down low finds Aubrey Allen, who puts that thing up and in for the easy 2. And fired up about it. He is heated in this one. I like that. Well, the Ravens take it 86-69 the final. I tell you what, Talk about a shot in the arm for that Ravens team. They were having a tough go at the tournament right here. They actually had 3 games. The game back on the Saturday, which they lost in overtime by 2. And then they followed up with a game on Monday, which they lose off a buzzer beater when they had a 1-point lead with seconds left. I tell you what, it wasn't exactly pretty for most of the tournament for them, but this game's, in Delaware, these games actually count towards their record. They needed to find a way to win one of those games, and they made it impressive down the stretch. Definitely took that one there.
Definitely, and one thing that I'll be looking forward to seeing is this coming matchup is Sussex Tech and Bennett here. Definitely going to be a great matchup. Sykes on Duffy. I know Sussex Tech is a very talented team, but I can't just keep giving them a pass on that. 3 of their 4 losses have been by 2 points or less.
Ouch.
They're good at competing, but I want to see the Ravens kind of finish some of these games here more. I mean, they're sticking in games, but they got to ultimately finish.
You can't afford to lose games like that type.
No, not at all. All right, well, Laurel rolled into the Governor's Challenge unbeaten, but they would meet some good Maryland teams. Laurel with loss number 1 on the night before against Blake, taking on Westminster. Reggie Green with a kiss off the glass. Little man giving Laurel the early lead later. Green finding Chucky August. I tell you what, Spencer, these fellas did it all season in football. Now getting it done on the court together. August gets the 3 and the foul. Laurel heads into the locker room ahead 30-21, but here come the Owls. Justin Burble takes it and gets it back from Gianni Pachito for 2 points. Owls tied up going into the 4th, still tied with 7 seconds left. Owls big man Jake McIntosh loses it, gets into Gary Warren's hands with a chance to win it. He would go back rim, and I guess what, Spencer, I guess they wish they hit that shot because in overtime, Chris Parker throwing it up on a Tuesday to Chris McIntosh, and he finishes. Westminster wins in overtime 64-58. So 2 losses here in the challenge for the Dogs, but when I spoke to head coach Sean Phillips, he made a good point saying they'd rather lose them now where they kind of count against your record, but they don't really cost you in conference. These losses will ultimately tighten things back up and get them ready for a hand open play.
Yeah, I mean, they are learning opportunities, but you'd rather have them be winning opportunities than losing. I mean, you can't afford to lose these games. They came in undefeated, and honestly, if you look at both the games they had in the tournament, the Bulldogs should have won both games. They had a huge lead in both contests, and they just kind of stumbled out of the gates in the second half. They for whatever reason, they just didn't come out with the same intensity. It kind of cost them, and you look at that, especially that second one, they should have had that one, honestly.
We'll see what happens.
Like you said, I guess it is just a tournament. It is not conference play. So we'll see kind of how they happen to move forward. They got a few big games coming up this week as well. Well, it's time for our first commercial break, but coming up next, what else? It is more Governor's Challenge. Sussex Central taking on North Dorchester. Keep it right here.
My name is Colin Gaynor, shooting guard at Parkside High School, and you're watching Delmarva Sports Insider.